What's going on, guys? Welcome back, and today I am going to be bringing you my review of Boba Fett's Starship, or the new LEGO Star Wars The Mandalorian set called Boba Fett's Starship. This is, of course, actually the Slave 1, so I will be addressing it as such throughout the rest of this review, but for some reason, LEGO doesn't want to call it or for some reason, LEGO doesn't want to call it the Slave 1, or at least Disney doesn't want to call it the Slave 1, but yeah, this is a really great set. Looking forward to showing it off to you guys, but let's get started with the minifigures. Starting off with our minifigures, we have the new Mandalorian Season 2 based Boba Fett minifigure, and this figure is great, but his blaster doesn't look particularly great. It's just an alien conquest gun with a lightsaber shoved on the end, and it doesn't look particularly like Boba's weapon in the show, but that's a minor complaint. I wasn't really expecting much in that department. But the print work all over him is great. You even have the skull on his shoulder, or like kind of the print detail for the skull of that creature on his shoulder pad. I do forget the name of that creature, but someone did kindly educate me on my previous Boba Fett custom video at the beginning of the year that there is a whole backstory in relation to the Fett family surrounding that creature and why it's on the armor. So thank you to whoever educated me on that. On this side, you have tubes going from kind of the gauntlet on the arm to the shoulder pad, and just lots of great print work. I guess it would have been nice if they could have included the tubes on this side, but they did include the print work detail for the skull, so that's kind of a minor complaint there. The torso print is great, although they did print kind of the large belt going, like, they printed it onto the hip and the torso piece, so it kind of cuts off a little bit, which is to be expected, so I guess that's kind of a minor complaint there. And the leg printing is great. You have kind of the holsters for the knee rockets there on his knees, obviously, and they used gunmetal gray as a base for the legs. Now, I don't mind that at all. I kind of would have preferred a dual-molded set of legs for him so that the robes would have looked more continuous, or at least some sort of like waist cape skirt piece there, because he does have black robes, rather than just printing it on, but those are minor complaints once again. The helmet printing is great. I've seen complaints about the inconsistency in the coloring of the helmet and the jetpack being a lighter shade of green than the dark green on the torso. For me, that's just kind of what happens when LEGO prints a lighter color onto a darker color, which is what happened here. They, I'm assuming, printed a lighter shade of green onto a black base color, which is the torso, and it just ended up looking darker. So that doesn't really bother me that much. Taking that off, you can see the brand new Temuera Morrison kind of scarred up Boba Fett face, and I think that looks great. It has kind of an uncanny resemblance to Temuera Morrison, in my opinion, and the printing does go on the back of his head, where there's a couple more little details for the scars. And I do think, you know, this figure could have benefited from, you know, some type of cloth piece, whether that be like, you know, a kind of a waist cape piece or something like that. But besides that, the figure looks great, and not many complaints. Maybe a better build for the gun as well, but just minor complaints. This figure looks great. And our second and last minifigure of this set is, of course, Mando, or Din Djarin, and this is obviously the new Beskar version. Although this minifigure did come in the Encounter on Tatooine set earlier this year, I had not gotten my own version of it, so I was very happy to get it, and honestly, this figure is better than I thought it was going to be. It looks even better than I thought it would. The printing on the arms especially looks almost chrome-like, the silver printing, and you can see the signet for the mud horn on his shoulder there, which I really like. But the printing is very well done, just crisp, good-looking printing. There just are very few mistakes there on the minifigure. He does come equipped with the Beskar spear, and he has this nice new helmet. I think they could have done a little bit more in the printing department on the helmet to maybe kind of make the helmet resemble Mando's helmet specifically from the show a little bit more, because he does kind of have little edges on the bottom of his helmet visor. But those are kind of minor complaints. He does come with a small blaster as well. I think that if the version of the set that you get comes with a spare lightsaber hilt piece, like the same one they used on Boba's blaster, I'd recommend adding that to this blaster. I think that really does actually make it look more like Amanda's blaster than just using this kind of small little blaster. But there is no head print under there, it's just a black face. It would be nice at this point, now that this figure has come in like 3 sets to include a face print for Pedro Pascal, but that's a minor complaint. This minifigure looks fantastic. Now that the minifigures are over and done with, now we can take a look at the actual build for the Slave One, and I was shocked by how, like, solid and actually, like, relatively large this build was. People were comparing it to earlier Slave Ones and saying it was small, but I think it's actually a very good, decent size. It does give you a good idea of the scale of the actual ship in comparison to the minifigures, and I do think that the scale is pretty good. I think the proportions are actually very good on this thing. Starting off, I guess, on this end, you got kind of the blasters at the bottom. Those are definitely accurate to the Slave One from the films and the TV show. There are stud shooters over here, which can fire off, and that one flew way away, and it's never going to be found again. But they do, the ship does come equipped with those, and they are actually built into the ship rather well. They don't take away from the design. Like, when I'm looking at it, I'm not going, ew, those stud shooters are sticking off the build. They look pretty ugly. Although the stickers here were horrendous to put on. If you were listening to my build live stream the other day, these stickers were horrendous to put on. You have to kind of put them really close. This is a green brick in the middle, but these two are stickers, and you have to almost put them, like, really close to the edge in order for them, like, for there not to be, like, a large gray gap. You can kind of see there that there's, like, a little gray gap in between them, and it was just a very frustrating process. I wish they would have just printed it, but, you know, you gotta work with what you got. And going over here, you got the cockpit area, and there is a little kind of control console down in there for Boba Fett, although it is kind of weird that it's, like, above his head, because when you're seating a minifigure in the cockpit, it would look like this. Like, this is how they sit in the actual ship, is that you kind of stick him right there. The visor, or the little antenna on Boba's helmet, doesn't actually fit, which is kind of irritating, so it's kind of best to just take that off. So the control panel's actually just at his head. I guess you could kind of sit him like this, but that's not how the ship goes, like, in the actual shows and movies, so I don't know why that's there. I guess there are actually controls above his head in the show, like, he does key some switches that are above his head in the show, so I guess you could imagine that that's what that is. But the build is very solid, you know. It was very cool to build it and see the construction of how it actually, like, works and how the shaping comes together for the actual build. It's very solid, very sturdy. I don't feel like it's gonna fall apart or anything. On the back here, you do have kind of a bunch of little pieces and plates, and the engine's there on the back, and it just looks very good. With gravity, the wings actually move, so if you put it down, the wings, like, kind of slide like that, and then if you lift it up, the wings go into kind of attack formation, which is very cool. Let's kind of give you a better angle of that. Kind of the wings angle up. That one seems to be a little bit faulty, but it is a cool kind of element that it's not really a play feature, but it's like, oh, it's kind of relies on gravity. I think I just lost a booster on the back here. Better stick that back on. There we go. But yeah, just a very solid build. Like, it was cool to see how it came together. I think all the shaping, like, around the bottom here, especially for the scale of the set, like, you know, I know that there have been larger Slave Ones, even though this is one of the smaller ones. I know there have been larger ones, and it's just impressive to me that they actually kind of captured all the necessary details for this to be a very, you know, very excellent model, and, like, you know, it does capture all the looks of the ship. You can lift up the ramp at the back and pull out this little carbonite piece, which has a little carbonite infused Gamorrean or Gamorrean or whatever, kind of the pig guys that worked at Jabba's palace. So that's pretty cool. It's a nice little feature. Kind of reminds you of the past of Boba Fett and how he did carbon date or carbonite Han Solo in Empire Strikes Back. And then there's just kind of this little maintenance cart thing, which, you know, you may be like, what the heck, this is weird, like, why is this here? It's just kind of a little thing you can kind of stick the Mandalorian in there, kind of like that, but it's actually designed to be a stand for the actual ship. So if you kind of lean it up like that and put the ladder in between the little sand green tile and the rest of these pieces, it does act as kind of a display stand for the actual ship, which I think works out rather well, and it just looks great. I'm looking forward to displaying it on my shelf. I think that that kind of aspect, that kind of versatility, I really appreciate in LEGO sets, you know, where you have something that can be used as, like, you know, a little maintenance vehicle, a little thing like that, but it also does serve a purpose for display if you're not kind of as into the play aspect, so. And for me, as more of a displayer rather than a player, so to speak, I really appreciate that feature. Now, with that said, that's pretty much it for the Slave 1 review, or the Boba Fett's Starship set review. I would say that you should pick this one up if you would like to. Here in my country, it's kind of pretty expensive. It's very expensive, actually. But I was happy with my purchase because I've wanted to get a Slave one for a long time, and having, you know, a more affordable, even at the current price that it is here where I live, it is a more affordable version, and I do appreciate that, and it's something that I've wanted, and the minifigures are great as well, and I want to do a comparison video, so it just kind of, for me, it worked out as a set that I felt happy purchasing. But I know that people who have the past Slave ones maybe don't want to purchase a smaller one or whatever. But for me, this is my first Slave one that I've bought, and I really like it. And I know that kind of the main draw for some people is that Boba Fett minifigure, but I do believe that if you wait long enough, you should be able to find a good deal for him on Bricklink or somewhere like that. But yeah, you guys please let me know all your thoughts on the Slave 1 or Boba Fett Starship set. Do you agree with me? Do you think it's a good set? Are you going to pick it up? Have you already picked it up? What are your thoughts? Please let me know them all in the comments below. And of course, as always, I hope you guys have a great day. Take care.